loud.
You have missed a few calls.
Yeah, yeah. Let me close that and exit out of this, which I think should stop those from popping up. And let's do our normal introduction, even though I think I recognize a lot of the names here. But so I'm Joe Glines, and I'm based out of Dallas. I'm not a programmer, but I've been coding with Autohotkey for I don't know how long now, quite a while. The last, I guess, like 5 years, I've been doing object-oriented stuff, which is a lot of fun and more complicated. And then Jackie and I got to talking about 3 years ago. We both love to use Autohotkey to simplify our lives. And Jackie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jackie, and I'm from Denmark, or Copenhagen, if you like to know the actual city. But still, I got to talking with Joe back then, and we kind of figured that we had similar interests in learning to code way better than what we did at the time, at least. And yeah, I've also had quite a fondness for the object-oriented part of it, especially with COM and web browsing generally. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
And we both have, we're not trying to make money off this and do stuff, right? We're just trying to help other people learn how to code and save time. And for me especially, I want to learn from you guys as well in the process, because there's been times where people really bring up a lot of stuff. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So it's awesome. But these are we both have websites where we have some, I have a lot more on the video side, and Jackie has more on post side, but we have tutorials and stuff. And here's how to contact us. Yeah. This is why we have right now, we have 36 registrants, which that's around normal, but normally we have, I'd say, like 15 to 20 people at the webinar. So I'm surprised not that many people. Maybe people are still recovering from that party Easter weekend. But generally, when there's that many people, we mute everybody. It's not because we want to hear ourselves talk, because trust me, we don't. It's just that with that many people and everyone tries to talk at the same time, it gets really confusing. So you can use the chat, which I think almost everyone's written in the chat there, but you can also raise your hand. And if you raise your hand or say in the chat you have a question, I can specifically unmute you then. But typically after, we usually go like the first hour, and then if we start opening up and really talking to people, we unmute everybody or allow them to unmute themselves. But it can happen earlier too. It's fine. Yeah. So someone asked earlier, what are we covering? Well, this is kind of a follow-up to the part one, which was before, of various ways to automate things. Before we jump into that, we typically have something where we showcase of just a cool script that we use. So in this example, this is a script that I use a lot. And let me go launch it here just to demonstrate it. So it's this one. I typically have this, actually it's in my main Autohotkey script, but I broke it out separately. So I'm going to launch it, and now what I can do is I can highlight a word, and I can hit caps lock S, and that'll bring it in here, which would allow me to type more. And let me just say controls, and hit OK. And it uses Google to search each of these websites that you saw listed in the code, right? So those are the ones what I do is in my actual code, I always search Stack Overflow and the Autohotkey forum stuff and support documentation. These other three, I typically comment out. It depends on the task I'm doing, right? But it's just a quick, easy script that can show you how easy it is to interactively say you're working on something and I need to search for it, and yet I can search several different sites, have the results all come back in one window, and when I'm done, just close it out. But that's it. It's a super easy script that I find very helpful for when I'm coding, right? I can quickly hit the sites that I use most frequently.
Yeah. It is a great small snippet of code that you can easily use. Yeah.
The other thing I'd say, which you guys probably all understand this, but is I back up the clipboard first, so I store it, and then I clear it out, and that's what I do is I send Control C. That way, if I have something highlighted, it'll try to pull it in. What's nice is I restore the clipboard after, right? And that's what, so it gets around if I had something on my clipboard I wanted, I don't actually lose it. I back it up first, use the send control, copy, run it into here, and then restore it back later, which is, I do that in a lot of stuff, right? Of like, why, I know I want to use the clipboard, but I don't want to lose what I necessarily had into it because I can just tack on to the end to restore what I had.
Yeah, and what you also, one thing to point out is also that you actually use the clipboard all variable to actually store all of the clipboard content.
Right.
That is actually a full version of whatever is on the clipboard. If you have ever used any kind of clipboard tool where you can view the content of the clipboard, where you can see all of the different formats and stuff that is actually stored at one time in the clipboard, all of that information is stored in that variable, which is then put in the one that you call store. Mm-hmm. So when you restore that back to just the clipboard, that can seem kind of weird. I know a lot of people have asked, why are you putting clipboard all back in just clipboard? But that makes sense because when you just use clipboard, you are actually restoring all of the data. So
yeah. So if you think about it this way, because I've also wanted to follow up on it at some point, but you could have an image on your clipboard, you could have text, you can have like HTML or rich text, right? All those things are stored differently in the clipboard. And if you did, I think it is just clipboard, right? If I could just drop this to just clipboard, if I remember right, is that right? And I think that'll keep like the text, I think. Is that right? Do you remember?
Yeah, that will give you the plain text. Yeah. Without any formatting or white space.
Which is a great shortcut, by the way, if you want to strip out the formatting of whatever you have in your clipboard, right? You just copy it as the clipboard instead of clipboard all, and it strips out the formatting. But so like I wrote a script, it's getting off topic, but I use Dropbox, but I can be on the other computer and hit Control C, and it copies it to the, I hit Windows C, and it copies what's on the clipboard to a file on the computer, and then this computer I can hit Control or Windows V, and it goes to that file and reads in what's in that file and puts it into the clipboard and then pastes it into this computer. So I can literally copy and paste between computers. And it's really convenient because if you're working side by side or you collaborate with someone else, or I could do it with Jackie too. If we have a shared Dropbox file, right, I could literally copy something and say just hit paste, and there you go, right? What I had never gotten around to doing was saying, well, what if it's an image and what if it's rich text and stuff? I have it where it's a file in Explorer, because that's another one, right? It could be a file, or if it's text. But I had thought, I should really figure out how to make it for anything.
Yeah, I believe I can remember. I just thought about it now, but I actually believe that you can store clipboard all the raw data in a file. So you could probably use that to get the image over.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the hiccup was, because it had something to do, if I recall, when you're in Explorer and you copy it, it's something a little different, right? You actually have to copy that file. Anyway, I don't remember the complexities of it, but it was just like, the fact that when you're Explorer, it did something a little different. Maybe it was it's
probably just storing the location of the file normally in the clipboard.
I think that was it, right? And since you're on the one computer, it doesn't matter, right? But when you're across computers, that won't work. Anyway, so let's get back to having some fun. So now we're going to switch over and start. We outlined 3, and if you want to focus on a different thing, just let us know as far as the different ways that we can automate stuff. Again, the point here is to say, we all send keystrokes, right? We've all, I'm sure played with the clipboard like we were just talking about, or sending mouse clicks and whatnot. But there were some other great ways, and Calm was the one that Jackie and I, we've had a webinar on it. We love it. It's amazing as long as the program has it built into it, like PowerPoint does. Most Office programs do, or at least a lot of them do. But not all programs have Calm built into them. And so these are some other ones that you can use, still programmatically interact with the program. And we just wanted to have live demos of doing it instead of just talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. So if we just start at the one, as no one really have any objections, should I take control
Yeah, let me
on my
pass it to
own
you.
screen or on your screen?
It's up to you. Is it do you think it'll be more responsive on yours? I mean, I'm sure it will be, but do you think that makes up for the difference?
It will make more. It will be more responsive for me, but might be less so for recording purposes and stuff.
Well, it's, you know what, I think it is a little easier if I'm going to stop sharing. Um, or did you already somehow
Nope.
stop? Oh, there's the button. Okay. All right, and now you can share your screen, Jackie. I think you can share.
Yeah, I'll try. It seems to be my screen. At least that's a notepad. So, yeah. So if everybody can see that, that's fine. So let's go over. Can you see it?
Well, maybe they do. I'm trying to find. There's always so many windows and. Oh, there we go. Okay, got you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So what I actually thought about was control click as an example. As you said yourself, it's built like most of the other control commands, and if you haven't used those, that's a part in itself. But this one is actually made to click a specific control in a window. So to kind of show off a specific control, I would use, let's say, a message box. I'll just run this just to kind of show this message box. So I need to save it. That's interesting.
So Jackie and I were chatting a while ago, and he reminded me that when I see control whatever in Autohotkey, I was always thinking, oh, that's for a GUI I built in Autohotkey. And he reminded me of, like, no, you can actually, on a lot of programs, you can connect with the controls, which are basically, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jackie, like objects in that program. So they can be a button or a label or a menu or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Windows sees, and some would even say that even a control is a window, but still a sub element of a main window would normally be called a control, I would say. So if I go here, take our normal WinSpectre here, and take this message box that I just opened. Interesting that it closed that one.
Hopefully everybody is familiar with that WinSpec, the active window.
Yeah, this one here.
SPY, I forget what it's actually called.
Yeah, active window info. So let's call it that. It can be found in different places. Here I use the one in SATA. If you have a script running, you can right click on that and find it here. And I have a shortcut for it here in my start menu, but it's also here in programs. If you have actually installed Autohotkey, it would be here. So wherever you find it, at least find this. It's a great tool when actually working with different windows, or at least native windows to Windows. For this one, when this is the active window, you will get the information over here. So here we have a window. You can see it here. It's called test111.hk. That's the actual title of this window. And it has some text. Press OK to continue, which you can actually see down here. And OK, that's the text of the button here. So if we wanted to know specifically the name of the OK button, the control that is this button, I would hover over it, and by pressing Win A, I would freeze the values within this here. So now I can see that the control under the mouse had the name button 1, and it had the text OK. It also had some color, but we are not going to use that right now. So if I wanted to press this button here, button 1 on this window, I would, as this is actually blocking this script, I would instead make a new file and say control click And then here you can see the parameters here. You will also be able to find those in the help file. But the control here was button 1. So let's put in that. So for this place here, we'll put button 1. And the title of the window, as you can see here, is test 111.ahk. This title here is case sensitive, so that's worth remembering. That's at least unless you set it to something else using one of the many options. So
and generally, I was going to say, generally speaking, though, you probably wouldn't use the title, right? You more often than not use the class or the exe.
It simply depends, because if, let's say, you have a window with a lot of child windows,
okay,
the class and the exe would maybe make more windows being, you would find more than one window, and that would actually make it act on the wrong one. So it simply depends on whatever. You also have other commands to actually narrow down what window to work on. You could use, let's say, win exist with the same parameters in this and get it to return the ID of a specific window. And that way you could always make sure to act on that specific window. It's the same thing that we're actually doing here. And I could specify more to be even more sure that I'm getting the right thing. Let's say I had more windows that were called test111.ahk, but I only want the window that is a message box. Here I know that a message box normally has this class here. So I could use that to actually make it act on the message box from this window. Let's go with that. So if I actually show this message box here, I would like to show it above this one, but let me close this one down a little bit. Open this one in the background. Just rearranging everything so people can easily see. So here we have this one. I want to click this. It's irritating that when I move the message box, it actually closes down the other windows. Yeah. So to close this one, I can now run this piece of code here. My mouse will not move. It will simply send this control here, click. So by running this message box here, over here should now close. And I, of course, need to save it. Yeah, sure. Let's try and run that again. Let's see if it worked. It actually didn't work. So for some reason, this isn't enough information for it to actually work, which is kind of weird to me. This should have worked. Let's try and send this again. Am I putting in information in the wrong spot? No. Control, that's button 1. That's okay. Win title, that's test 111 AHK. That's also okay. Which button, and the rest should also be fine. It's actually running something else. Why is it doing that? It's running the wrong piece of code. No, it's just running the wrong script. That's kind of weird. I don't know why it did that. So let's try and do this one more time. Still not really working. That's always an interesting thing. That should have been a fairly easy example to actually use. What we could do instead, we could instead actually make it, let's say, click a specific spot within this window. Instead, so if I, let's say, unlock this one over here and look for
Cap Note said try running it directly. I'm not sure what. Can you elaborate on that? Unless Jackie understands what that means.
Probably means going them here.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that worked. So for some reason it was making it act weirdly by going over here and then running it. It was, can you see it's actually running the wrong script? I don't know why, but this,
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah. Right.
For whatever reason. So by actually going and running the the script without using the set a play button here and just double clicking this piece of code here, this box over here will now close. So the script was working as is, but something with SATI was kind of putting it all off.
Right. And just to clarify also, I think everyone understands this, but for convenience sake, you used Autohotkey to generate that message box, right? Yeah, this could have been in any sort of a window that had a GUI interface with a button on it, right? And so that, which obviously is the real strength, right, of being able to do this.
Let's say, I don't know if I have a good one. Let's say this one here. If I go with the WinSpectre again, I'll unlock it. And here we can actually see the different things. And if I wanted to, let's say this one doesn't actually have enough controls for us to really do something interesting. Not when we're just clicking. Maybe if we opened, let's say this here, and I wanted to click this OK button as an example. Yeah, any window made with standard Windows controls, that's correct. And some might even work. Yeah, it's still standard controls, so that's correct. It was Captain Odin just pointing something out in the chat that I was actually talking about. So here I have a button 5. So if I put that in there, and then I want this window title, I have that one up here. So if I put that here instead, save this, go, let's run it directly just to be sure. Like so. I'll run this, and you saw it actually closed immediately.
So, and I was going to say, to contrast it, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I would have had that window open, and I would have used WinActivate, that, make sure that's active, probably hit tab like 8 times, to get down to it, and then, hit send a click, or I would, do something like that, which can often work, right? It's not terrible, but this is much more reliable, right? If you get it to work once, it's going to work very reliably.
Yeah, and you could also use it to actually, let's say, put focus into a specific place. Let's say if this one here, which we can see in the Windows Spectre over here, actually is called Edit 2. If I wanted to just put input focus there, I could do it like this. So let's say the focus is over here. Now I've changed this to actually click within this control over here. Let's see me do that. So I'll go over here, I'll run this. Did you see it? It immediately shifted focus to this control here. So you can easily use it to a lot of different things where you need to, but the most interesting thing is that you're actually sending clicks to places where the mouse ain't. So when I'm actually clicking here, it doesn't move the mouse over here and then clicks it and back again. No, the mouse stays here. The mouse could even be doing other stuff. This window could be in the background.
Yeah, or even hidden, I think we were talking about, right? It could be.
Yeah. Most likely it could also be hidden. Probably depends on the window, but yeah, most likely it could. Let's say that this is a off screen. I don't think I can put it behind that, but I can maybe put it behind ZA as an example. This is now where we have the control now. So if I go here and actually hide it and run this, it will click the control behind everything behind here. It will bring the window forth. This one was always on top. So, but here, and of course, this click command also has options. You can see there's an option out here where you can actually try and make sure that the window doesn't become active when you do stuff to it. So if we, let's say we go to here and that's the text, this is which button, this is click count, and then we should actually be in options. And the NA, that's the option here, no activate. That should, did I actually count those correctly? 1, 2, 3, no, I need one more, right? Like so. This is the options. And then if I actually go over here, shift the control to there, hide it all. When I run this now, it should try and click the control without actually activating the window. It still did, probably because you can't actually click and edit control without it actually becoming active. Mm-hmm. But still, that is the general idea of NA option. I think that's most likely what control click is. You could also use it to, let's say, click a specific point within the window. So instead of actually clicking a specific control, you would instead click within the Windows frame here. So if I wanted to say click this one here, the Cinder Sins, I would instead let this flow over here. I would look at the coordinates. For this one, I would look at the relative coordinates, could also be the client coordinates. But here, I would take these, put those, as you can see, if you run this option here, you can use the control or the pose of the whatever. So if we put an X there, this you can see by going into the options, and this would be all that was needed. I'll remove that last part there. So if I now actually save that, go here, run it directly just to be sure. Did you see it actually moved to the place?
I've never done that. I'm glad you demonstrated that.
No, it's good. So yeah, if a control for some reason doesn't have a specific thing, you can still act within the defined space of it.
And that's the relative is inside that GUI you're looking at, or that window. It's always going to be there, regardless of where that is on the screen, right?
Yeah, cool. That's the idea. Now we can't really resize this, but if we could have resized it, and it would still hit this spot there. That control might not have been there anymore, but still.
Right. All right. Let's. I mean, I think this is awesome, but it's already 3:30. Let's.
Time is moving fast.
Unless, yeah, exactly. Let's move on to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I know that too. I remember that as being send and post message.
Yeah.
I was trying to do some different stuff with the send and post message before we actually started, but for some reason I couldn't actually make the Windows Spectre programs work for me, so I couldn't build a good example at the moment. So for right now, I'll try and see if we don't have one in the help file.
There is. I was playing with one on my computer, but go ahead and I'm sure you can grab it from there just as fast as me sending it to you. It was telling you how to change the title of a notepad.
So let's say this one is the example of the Winamp, which isn't actually the one. So this one
up one more is the one I was testing. And it basically you run, it will run Notepad. I think it's activating, and that's what's waiting for it to exist, I guess. But then it changes the name of the file, or at least the header, the title, to be that new title.
Yeah, let's see that in action then.
Now,
So
how about
Mhm.
while you're doing it, why don't you give a high-level explanation of what the send and post messages are?
Okay, yeah. The send message is, and the post message is those messages that Windows is already sending back and forth each time you take an action. So if, let's say, you click over here, a message is sent to this window that a click was performed at this spot within the window, and that in return actually makes that window send back that it did this action, it received this command. So that would be what you saw within a program like that. So these messages can be imitated or replicated, might be the right word. So where control click actually sends a click event to a control, that is actually what send and post messages, that is actually using send and post message behind the scenes. We just don't see it, and this has already given us a structured format of doing everything that we need to do. So instead of actually building a longer line with a post message as an example, where we need to fill in the message of it, the v param, the l param, the control, and stuff like that. This has then been structured in something that we're more used to actually seeing within our hotkey. But it's still just about the same thing that's happening behind the scenes. So instead of control clicking, we could most likely see send message. And if we then knew the actual message to send for a click, we could then put in that message, a click message. And given the v param and l params, that would be things like the location of the click to perform, and again, the same for the control and stuff like that. That is actually receiving the messages.
And for everyone, if you didn't attend last webinar, there's a post on both of our, I think Jackie's posted it too, on our websites, where I have a bunch of the links that show you where you can look them up and tools to go identify them.
Yeah.
The different messages and things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And those programs can be very useful. The difference between, let's say, send message and post message is that send message actually waits for the window or the control to respond, to say, hey, I actually received that message. And here you have a message back, or a success, or whatever it might be, or a failure message. So if you need to know that the message you sent actually was received by whatever program or control you send it to, you would use send message.
And correct me if I'm wrong, one of them's asynchronous, right? And one's not? Is that the one that's waiting is not?
Yeah, send is actually waiting. It's waiting for the response.
Okay.
That is send. I at one point said that it's kind of like sending a courier with who needs a signature for the package.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great visual. Yeah.
Where post is just like putting up a poster.
And you're not waiting around to see who looks at it or whatever.
No, exactly. So
interesting.
We're just posting the message out there, and whoever comes by can read it. So it's you don't wait around to actually see who reads it or know if anybody read it. So that's kind of the difference between the two.
In one other thing, which if Jackie had pulled it up, but like the WinSpy, if you've never looked at it, I say go look at it and look at the amount of messages that are hammering Windows every second, every click you do. It's just crazy seeing how many things are firing. It gives you a lot of respect for, like, when you're your computer, you start Outlook and it takes you 10 seconds to load it, right? You just, even when it's sitting still, it's just the amount of stuff that is going on in the background is, to me, insane, just to realize, like, wow, it's a lot to keep track of.
It is. I opened it here, and if we're lucky, it won't actually pan down my computer this time. Mm-hmm. So if I open the messages of SETI here,
yep.
I don't think I have any message filters on this one. Let's see. That didn't really come up. No, it's filtering none of them. So as soon as I actually go here, you see I made a click and I actually moved the mouse. Already, I have messages coming in, and the program is actually working behind the scenes already. Just because I made that click, and now it's probably cleaning up and stuff like that. So if I move this a little more over here, we can see the messages acting on me moving. Oh, as you can see, my programs at the moment don't really like me using WinSpectre, but that's just because my computer has been turned on for so long, or whatever it is. I haven't seen it really bog down the computer in this way before. I was hoping that this wouldn't happen, so I might need to actually close this down a moment again, because it's kind of halting up everything. So when I go here, it makes all of these messages appear over there, and I truly can't really get this to work in any usable fashion. But again, these messages over here would then be the ones that you would need to act on. Let's say one of the more important ones would be the one that's called VM command.
Yeah, to restate that, Jackie, because you said it really well earlier. You're gonna, you'll start up this WinSpectre program. You go into the program you're trying to use. You do the behavior you want to mirror, and then you go back to WinSpectre, and this is where you filter down and figure out what command was sent. And you're like, oh, this is the one I need, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what he's working on right now. And that's what then you'll go back into Autohotkey, and you're going to build a post or send message to replicate the behavior to send that to Windows.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's a truly good way of putting it. I'll need to close this down because it's stopping me from actually being able to do anything. But yeah, that's the general idea. You would go into a program like WinSpectre and check out what messages is actually being sent around while you do whatever action it is. And one of the things you could do is you could figure out the message for, let's say, turning on white space. Here you have a hotkey, you could use that. But if you had a program where it didn't have a hotkey, you could either go through the menus and finding the right spot and then turning that on, or you could use the correct message and post that one to the window, and then that would open the same or act on the same menu item. Because I can't actually get my hands on any truly new commands, I would like to use the one from the file here. Yep. So I'll just copy that one over, put that in there. I already have Notepad up there, but because I'm in Denmark and it's talking another language, I actually need to make sure that I have the correct values here instead. So for that, I'll go here, put in the Danish version of whatever Notepad calls. I could also, just to say, instead of actually using the name of this one, I could use HK exit Notepad. That would also be that. But as I actually had multiple notepads open earlier, that would mean that it would act on the first notepad that it found. So not necessarily the specific one I have open here. But as I only have one notepad open, I can get away with only using this at the moment. This message here, as you can see, the help file already tells you what this hex number is, OXC or 0XC, that is. That is, what is that? That's 13 or something. And then it shows you here that that's the message that you send, 13. 13 is the same as VM select set text. And then the V param is a 0, and the L param is the new text that you want to put into this window up here. The winwet command up here is actually setting the last found window behind the scenes. You're not seeing that here. And that's why within this send message, there isn't actually anything put into the control or the win title. And when you do that with Autohotkey commands, it uses the last found window, and commands like winwait sets the last found window. So to just act on this, I would then press here and let's see if I can make it run. I could make it run. I don't know which one it actually ran or if it actually did anything. But at the moment, I don't see it actually doing anything. You tested out this earlier, right, Joe?
I did, yeah.
So if I run this, I don't actually see any changes over here. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Well, but yeah, why don't you have it run Notepad first, just to see if that helps, because that was included in the.
Oh, so you wanted to run Notepad first?
Yeah, I mean that's what the original one did.
That's of course right. So this ran Notepad.
Yeah,
Notepad
I saw it.
ran, but it still doesn't actually change whatever text is up there. This was the text that you saw changed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it's not actually changing it on Windows 7, and you saw it on Windows 10, right?
Yeah, you know what? At first, I didn't think it worked, and then I realized I think what it was is I had another thing of Notepad open. But
I would believe that I don't have any more Notepads.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm happy to kind of close them all down. I don't have any more open. Running this would open a new Notepad, but the name is still unchanged, as you can see.
And you're sure that, obviously, because you're running it, so that is the executable.
Yeah, if we instead then use the name as they're doing here in, I believe that's what they had in the manual, right?
I think so, yeah.
So if we run that, then it actually changed the title.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
For whatever reason, this here probably finds this window there, whereas the other thing found something else. And to me, that's a new one. But okay, that actually worked. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
So this here is set text. This is a 0, and this is the new text. Instead of actually waiting for this window, if I didn't run it, let's say I didn't run it, and I just used this here instead, I put a comma here and say, here the control should be, but I want to act on the actual win title. So I'll put another one, put in the name there, and take this one away. And just to show that I'm actually changing it again, I'll put a 1 there. So now when I run it, we will get a run here, 1 there. We probably won't, because that's not the right title anymore. So as you saw, but if I instead change this back here to the new title that we gave it without the 1, then you should see the change, and you did. So again, it's still working. You just need to have your parameters right, or your different parts of the message. So that's one of the ways. You could do it with any one normal window that had, let's say, a text title like this one. You could change other values in other places, wherever, and you could also send clicks and other commands to the different windows.
Let's, if you're ready, we got 10 minutes left for the first hour. Let's switch over to the accessibility, I don't know how to say it, tool and approach.
Yeah, let's do that.
So this was the one, by the way, because I was watching something on it, and the whole accessibility thing. So if you think about it, blind people, visually impaired people and stuff, they can't interact, like with computers in a normal way. So Windows has gone on the way, Microsoft, to set up ways where people can detect where you are on the computer screen, right? Of course, that means they need to clearly define things for other programs to go automatically say, what is the title, right? It's going to be here. And if I think that's, Jackie, right? What this tool is tying into is leveraging that they've made hooks into programs that people write accessible, that we can then go, especially extract the text and extract things, but also sometimes like play the default behavior.
Yeah, the accessible info, or the active accessible library in general, or the general idea behind it, was probably made for, let's say, screen readers for people with disabilities and stuff like that. So when you made a screen reader, you would always have a structured way of actually finding what you needed within the window. Because here, yeah, we can easily read that. For a blind person, that would be quite hard to actually read, because they're blind. So if a program is to then find what fourth tab is actually called, then it needs some way to programmatically find that control. Mm-hmm. So for this maybe short example, I would take the info viewer and drag it to, let's say, this control here. And here I can then see the text of it and stuff like that. And it would be the same within the Windows SPI. It would also be able, because this is a normal Windows control, to see the text most likely. I don't see it down here, but it might be here somewhere. There can be a lot of text within these windows, but
it wouldn't necessarily isolate it, though, right? It might, but it's not going to have a location per se.
No. For this one, as it is a totally normal Windows control, this tab control here, you would most likely be able to do it. But if this wasn't a normal Windows built program, it was something special, something built with Java or something else, or maybe it was built using some other method of actually building stuff like that, like a web page or something, where it's actually another language. So then you would still be able to get information via the accessible info viewer or the accessible info library. And let's say, I know, Joe, you had a program that wasn't actually willing to give up any of its information in the normal manner.
Yep.
Do we want to switch over to that one?
Yeah. Let me I'm going to start my screen share. It'll automatically stop yours, it looks like.
Yeah.
And here's Tableau is the tool, and then let's see. So app C. Oh, you know what? I was going to say, did we have this? Anyway, I was going to show you real quickly. It was open, but that's right. App C. And that did not launch it. Huh. Oh, that's because I suspended my hotkeys because I had that main script, that support script in my main script. Mm. There we go. Okay, and then let me pass remote control to you. There you
go. Okay. I still need the Windows info, the normal one. Can you find that one for me? That one is there. So I can't move that window. Is does it have elevated privileges or something like
No. Well, I'm trying to remember my main one. It could. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just guessing that for some reason I can't even make it act on the windows below it. But still, that window will tell us a little bit of information about Tableau, like the name and the control and the class of it. But for all of the rest of this stuff, I just see one blank control, one blank CNN or class SN, and the text is always the same, and the visible text at the bottom is also blank. So I'm not really getting any of this info.
Yeah, in the last webinar, I demonstrated with Winspector Spy, and I had a couple other ones that I've used. I was dragging them in here, and you could see nothing was reading information from it. I mean, I could not in any way get anything to report back of the data that was there, any of the text, anything.
No. But still, it still seems to be a Windows program, so it's probably still written in a language that
it's
is
C# is what I read. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense that it's C#, which is also what Microsoft is maybe pushing the most. So that makes a lot of sense. But still, it's not really presenting the information in any of the tools that we normally have available within Autohotkey. So we couldn't actually use Control Read or any of those to get these values, which we could have normally done. We can put the mouse over it and get the control below it, which you could also normally have done. But here, to get the information from a window like this, it's a good idea to actually try this tool here. And I'll do that now, and you should see it actually. If I can drag anything from it, and I can't.
All right, I'll do it. Here we go. So you can see it was doing an amazing job, and you can see the text showing up too, right? Even in here, and the different tabs. Yeah, I was very impressed with its ability to grab that info since nothing else could.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then CapNode, I think, wanted me to click this, or someone did, showing the structure, which also has to do with this path, which Jackie will go ahead and get into, but it is pretty amazing. Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah. Actually, the path here, if you have picked a control that actually is below whatever window you have access to as a ground point or as a reference point, will then show the access, the active accessibility structure that goes into actually getting to the point that you are interested in. So you have the window at the top, then you have a client within the window that is also all of this. And then you have the top level controls under that, or windows under that. You have a list, you have a border, you have a toolbar, which is also the one at the top here. And then you have a client. You actually have two. And the first client, right now I can't click these windows because I don't have whatever privileges I need to do that. But to actually see this, you have a client here, and that one actually has a border and it has more clients below it. And the same for the fifth, or the fifth element, or the fifth window that is opened here, has a lot of clients within it. If you, Joe, can you click on the top client there?
Way up here?
Yeah, I can't see your yeah, that one. So you can see that's actually yeah, I wanted the one with the 5.
Yeah, so that's the whole area.
Yeah, that's the area of that one over there, and that's why you're seeing so many clients below it. That's because it's different pieces of this control or this sub window that you're seeing within that. What information do you actually wish to grab, Joe?
Let's keep it simple. Let's simple in the sense of let's just say we wanted to get this tab, the name
group.
Yes, the text. Yeah.
Okay, so if we wanted to get the name of the age group, which actually doesn't seem to show up within the
Yeah,
active accessibility viewer, and
thought it
without me
did.
being this access accessibility viewer, Joe, do you are you able to actually open that in another way?
Which one?
The active accessibility viewer, the info viewer here in the middle. Can you open that without using a hotkey?
Oh,
So you
sure.
can
Yeah,
actually
I understand what you're saying. I'm thinking. Let me get the path to it. Okay, so there you go. And let me
did
bring
that
back up Tableau.
didn't actually help.
You dragged it.
Did I?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, so it's very slow. Fair enough. For
Made
me,
you.
for me, for me, that's slow. But okay, as
Let
long
me
as
bring
it,
back up Tableau here. There we go.
yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try and do this even slower and see if we can get that. You had some tabs somewhere that I can't see now.
You can't see them?
No, that oh, I got it. Okay, so let's see if I can actually drag this course here down here to, let's say, age group. Okay, that loaded up. So extended selection apparently, and for whatever reason, we now know that we probably can't get the text from this in this manner. I'm trying to.
You can't expand it. You can scroll.
Can't I expand it?
No, I don't think so.
I usually could. So I believe I can, or I should be able to do it. Have you tried that?
Yeah, but maybe you have a different version. Oh, it did look like they tried for a second.
Can you try, because I can't hit anything. There's nothing there. No.
Oh, that's what it is. You can't grab the corner, but you can grab the side.
Okay, so you can probably also extend it down. Fair enough. So that's just a list item apparently, and as it's shown up here, it doesn't actually have a text element to it. So for these down there, we probably can't get the text, not at this time at least. So let's try and grab something else instead, just to kind of show that we can actually get the text from stuff. What about this one? I'll see.
You can pick any of the things on the far left, like where it says age or email or Ollie.
Okay, so that's a client to deep as well, as you can see there. It won't actually go into those. So
yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but I think the things on the far left.
Yeah, those over here.
Yeah.
If I had a reason to actually.
There you go. Now there's the. I see Gend.
Yeah. Okay, that I'm not saying that that's totally useful information in this, but we could still try and get it at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there could be a situation where I want to know what variables I have in my data set, right? So I could iterate over all of those, especially because there's, there is a search up there at top, but yeah.
The interesting part, or whatever you'd call this, from Tableau, that is, what is the top of this window? What is actually the top window? Because sometimes windows, if you grab something further down the chain, it will only go so high.
Yeah.
So instead of actually going to the main top window, you might actually get the window here at the top would be the inner control here.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be quite hard to actually grab from Autohotkey, whereas the main window is a good reference point normally.
Sure. Yeah.
So if I instead actually tried, and I probably
Well, there's that. Okay.
I'm trying to actually get the
Yeah,
true.
I understand. Get the whole thing.
Yeah, let me try and take this one and see that this one, the window up here, that's probably the full window, just a guess, because I can't see the actual outline of it.
Yep.
And there we have a window below that one. That's the fourth one. That's often what it is. And it has a client. And under that one, again, if I'd looked at the path more closely, I could probably have deducted where to go. But the client 1, I remember we were in a client 5. So let me try that one. And you can see it's actually highlighting the one over on the side, the one we were looking at before. So, and I know that the window it's giving me is this one. So I only need to go from the main window and to the 4. And then I can actually use the structure that it's giving me. So if I drag this to the one I need, that one, I can see it's going client 5, client 1, window.
Yep.
And to actually get to this one, I need to have a 4 before this path. Is it still copying on click, this one? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's good. So now I actually need your SATA.
It's still open. You see it up there.
It's up here, that's right. You have it this way. Okay, so for this one, I'll open a new one just to have it on something blank. Right click, come on, menu, appear. I can't click, I can't right click apparently.
It's on a new window. Are you not on it?
Yeah, I'm on a new window, but I can't interact with it or what. I made a new one, but from here on, I don't seem to be able to do anything.
You still, let me, weird. Let me turn off remote control.
Yeah.
And then turn it back on. Also going to hold on just 1 second here. I'm going to stop the recording.